Hello everybody and welcome back to a very important live stream. Make sure you guys like this stream down below, subscribe if you have not yet subscribed. And in today's live stream, we're going to be covering Ohio's issue 1. This is a very important election. It's the first election we've actually covered and live streamed since the Wisconsin State Supreme Court election. And what this really comes down to, for those who don't exactly understand it, is that there is this referendum about referendums that they're putting out there, and it makes sure that if this passes, any referendum that's put out there to the voters, the threshold is raised. It will not pass with 50% plus 1. It will only pass with 60% plus 1. So you're raising that threshold, and there's a very important abortion referendum coming that's kind of similar to Michigan's that's going to be taking place this fall. And what that does is, if that passes, that basically codifies abortion in the Constitution, and that's not a good thing. And if this goes through, it's going to be very difficult for Ohio to do that. So this is kind of like the pre-referendum to the next referendum. Now, if it doesn't pass, not a lot is really lost or gained, which is not a good thing. However, the big one comes in November, and this will make the big one a lot harder for the left to get through. Now, I will say that Republicans did a good job with turnout so far. They did a good job with early vote turnout. They did a good job, it seems like they've done, on Election Day. However, this is going to come down to what percentage of the voters that did show up, even though Republicans got enough of their base out, are going to vote to raise the threshold, because you also have some people that say, well, that's not fair. We're losing power as voters. And it's like, people need to understand that this is not about that. This is about something deeper than that. This is about not putting these referendums out there and then having all the big money, which usually is going to favor one side. It's not going to favor our side, dictate these elections and dictate policy and dictate what's in the state constitutions. And when they say, well, that's not real populism, you're not a populist, whatever. I'm not a populist in the sense where I think every individual should, have one vote and that dictates the entirety of all the policy. I'm a populist because I believe the current elite has gone rogue. And this is probably one of the things that the elite is supporting, because they believe that they can control the masses via under the guise of what they call democracy. And that's kind of what this is about. It is about abortion, but it's about a little bit more than that. Do I expect it to pass through? Not necessarily, but we'll see what happens at the end of the day. We'll wait and we'll see if the results do end up pouring in here probably any minute now, because the polls have closed, and we'll be analyzing the results as they do come in and seeing if they will favor issue 1 or if issue 1 is going to be shot down. So we will see. But we have 700 live viewers almost. Like the stream. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell if you have not hit the bell yet. And if you have any questions for me during the stream, feel free to send them in via Super Chat or the $ function in the live chat there. So we have results, and No is up big. No is up big with 3% of the vote in, but this is all from Franklin County, which is the liberal stronghold of Columbus. But No has a very early vote dump there. Also, Hocking County, early vote dump out of a deep red county. No is ahead there as well. So not looking good for Yes so far, but keep in mind, this is just 3% of the live of the vote that's coming in here. We have Super Chat. Sam Madsen says, the way I see it is abortion is preventing us from getting any of the suburban support back that we've lost, but we could offset that if we could turn out white working class voters, but we aren't for whatever reason. Well, one of the states that they have been doing a better job of that in is the state of Ohio, but still not necessarily enough in a lot of the places that counts, and they could be doing a whole lot better. Stefan Godelo says, your website won't let me reset password. Help. Well, send me an email and I could reset it manually. We are working on the website trying to get the password reset links working, but as of right now, we have had some trouble with that. So make sure if you're having trouble with that, make sure to send me an email. I can do it. We can get it squared away manually, and you guys can change it from there. So 3% of the vote in so far. Not a lot of votes in here, but the votes that are in, mainly from liberal Columbus, which is Franklin County. 23% of the vote there. No has a massive advantage there, but we're still waiting on other counties to report. It just really depends. But if we're seeing this result so far in Hocking County, which is a rural, more Republican county, if that result margin holds when that's like 100% of the vote in, that basically makes this referendum dead on arrival and nothing exactly will be able to be passed through. And I didn't expect this to be passed. I'd like to make that clear before the votes are really tallied in. I've made that clear on social media over the past couple of days as well. But either way, it'd be a little disappointing if it's not able to pass through. There were some polls that had it close, and then there was a poll that had it getting destroyed, but polls are not necessarily everything, so we'll see what happens. But 3% of the votes are in, and we have 875 live viewers in chat. So make sure you guys like the stream, subscribe, send in super chats if you guys have any for me. I'll get to those as we wait for results, because we're waiting. It's kind of a little boring when they're not tabulating everything right away. But that's the way these things are, especially when you're just 9 minutes past poll closing. And now we have a lot of results. And yes has some counties so far, and they have 24% of the vote in out of Lake County. No, with a massive lead. That is a swing county. Lake County there in Ohio. Also Mahoning County, another swing county that flipped from 2016 to 2020 for Donald Trump, actually held for Vance in 2022. No has a massive advantage in the first vote dumps out of those counties. So the Yes campaign, it's not looking good for the Yes campaign. They have some support, I guess, in some of these deep red counties, but we're still far away. We're 4% of the vote in. Depends on what types of votes these are. But either way, this is not really the best showing so far. But we do have a long way to go. 935 live viewers in chat as well. Make sure you guys like up that stream. But as of right now, this is not exactly the best showing for the Yes campaign. It's obviously a long way to go. We know that it's not going to hold at 77 to 22. But you look at this referendum, it's not exactly something that a lot of Republicans, or I will say that there was a sizable portion of the Republican electorate that voted against this because, I don't know, maybe they viewed it under the guise of you're losing power in the state. I think they should do away with referendums, if you want me to be completely honest, but that's beside the point. It kind of defeats the point of what the founders exactly described the vision for this country to be, which was the fact that you would have a representative republic, not, we're going to put a bunch of questions on the ballot. Let's have big money and interest groups fight over how much they can spend to make it go one way or another. Whatever. Let's see. Sam Madsen says, does Stark County vote for the amendment in November? It depends. The way that things are going right now, it's possible that, it's entirely possible that it could. I don't know what the margin's going to be, though. I honestly don't know. I can't answer that question. I can't. It's 78 to 22. Let's see. Miku Huntu 4X Bot says Ohio and voted no. Robert Barnes had the correct take. So you have a lot of people on the right that are also voting no on this thing for whatever reason. Maybe they just see it as, future referendums that are going to be on the ballot are going to be a lot harder for Republicans to really get through. But this is mainly about what's taking place in November. That's what this has been ramped up to be. You have Democrats that are energized about this. Republicans did a good job in the early vote with some of the data that we had, but it does seem as if a big portion of those that did vote happen to vote maybe the wrong way on this, which is not exactly good. And because this is likely, at this point, it probably is not going to pass. It's too early, I know. Some of these counties are coming in and more votes are being tabulated. It's definitely going to get a lot closer as the night goes on. But a lot of Republicans definitely voted no for this, which is something that is kind of questionable given the high stakes this November. So that's what it comes down to. Patrick Kennedy says, can you briefly explain the difference between an amendment, a bill, and an executive order? Well, I mean, that depends on what you mean by amendment. There's a lot of things that could refer to amendments. Constitutional amendments. Amendments is in this amendment that is being passed through. Executive orders and bills are different because bills are like binding legislation that passes through Congress, whereas executive orders, you have a president, they sign an executive order. It's a directive to the executive branch. And the same thing goes for a lot of governors, but then the next president can get into office and just kind of rip up everything they've done. And that kind of seems to be the trade-off back and forth, what we've seen from Obama to Trump, and then from Trump to Biden, and then from Biden to whatever Republican president does come next, whether it is Trump or somebody after Biden, if he, God forbid, does happen to get a second term. Anthony Williams says, what's issue 1 and what results are we rooting for? I covered this a bit earlier, but I'll reiterate it for the people that are just tuning in. So this is a referendum to raise the threshold required to pass any ballot measure, referendum, whatever you want to call them, from 50% plus 1 to 60% plus 1. And you have a very important abortion referendum that's coming up, similar to the one that passed in Michigan, and they're going to try to pass it through in Ohio this November. That makes it kind of embedded in the Constitution that, oh, there is a right to this abortion thing. That's what it comes down to. So if this doesn't pass through, if this doesn't hold, then Republicans probably, or I guess you would say conservatives, are probably going to take an L in Ohio this November if this amendment that we're seeing in November to the Constitution that's put out there as a referendum gets like 53% of the vote. It'll pass. If this passes, that wouldn't be enough. And honestly, I don't believe in ballot measures. For the record, I don't believe that you could put these questions out there on the ballot and then have people voting on them when you have so much money and interest groups that are kind of pouring in that are going to dictate this. They call it the democracy. In a way, it's just the same old, we're gonna pass through the agenda under the guise of the people passing it through with extra steps. That's what it comes down to. So Arnie Hernandez says, is there a silver lining if no unfortunately wins? I mean, I guess it would depend on future ballot measures. There could be ballot measures in the future that could potentially favor us, but we don't even play that game. We don't word them properly. We did that in Louisiana in 2020, the overturning Roe trigger law thing that was in the Constitution there. They put it in the Constitution. They passed it through, and it actually outperformed Donald Trump in the state of Louisiana, which was good. But in many cases, they really failed to dictate the discourse, and that's why you have states like Kansas, Kentucky, Montana, deep red states still narrowly allowing things like abortion. So let's see. Dylan G. Tech says, even in New York, our Constitution requires 2/3 for an amendment and passing 2 consecutive legislative sessions. Yeah, I think that that's fair. I really do. I think that if you do have these things, if you do have ballot measures, it shouldn't be just 50% plus 1. This should be a resounding rebuke of something, and you should limit the disparity that different interest groups are really allowed to spend on it. But I don't think that the public is really all that informed to the point where I can sit back here and say, hey, yeah, let's have everybody vote on every single issue, and that will dictate the public discourse. Of course not. It doesn't exactly work that way. People are not exactly the most knowledgeable when it comes down to all of these things. Maybe I am, maybe some of you guys are, but the general voting public is not necessarily that knowledgeable. That's why we have a representative republic. That's why we elect certain people to make these decisions for us. And like I said, you might say that that's anti-populist, but it kind of misses the whole point of what populism truly is. And the fact is we have an elite that's turned their back on the American people, and that needs to be recorrected with a better political class, not, oh, let's give people the power and see what exactly happens. So these are, in many cases, these could be early votes, but still, it's an interesting map here. The western part of Ohio and the rural counties is voting very differently than the eastern part, but you do have a lot of blue areas in. But even so, like the early votes in Butler and Warren County, where you do have like, I'd say 65-35 big red counties that are the Republican suburbs of Cincinnati, they're voting, and they're not exactly voting in high numbers, and they're not exactly voting the way that you would expect them to vote if yes really had a chance at passing. Now, like I said, it's early. This is going to narrow, but is it going to narrow by enough to really make that difference? I don't see it yet. I don't really see it. Yes keeps gaining in every vote dump, but it's still, like I said, it doesn't look super promising. And I don't even think we have a county that's like fully all the way in yet. And I know Ohio reports their blue-leaning votes first. I don't think Trump took the lead in Ohio until about half the votes were reported. Then he took a big lead in Ohio. Same thing back in 2016. Same thing with J.D. Vance in 2022. That's the way Ohio reports their votes. I'm not the one deciding that. I think the way they report their votes are good because then we get to just coast down. You know, we're playing offense. We're getting the late vote dump. Same thing with North Carolina. Same thing with Florida, obviously, even though we're winning both the early and later vote dumps in Florida. But interesting. So we'll see. More super chats. We have more. Sam Madsen says, I'm tired of losing every single election. This dam has to break at some point. I agree. We're in a drought right now. We need new leadership. We don't have any. We have stupid people running the show and then blaming some of the well-meaning smart people, and then there's also some dumb people that are well-meaning too, but that's beside the point. Jake Huziak says, tough to remove the license equals freedom from the American mindset. I mean, it is to an extent, but if you look at the American mindset and you talk about referendums in the case of this, which I'm not saying the super chat was 100% relative to that in all aspects, but we talk about the American mindset. The traditional American mindset was about a representative republic. Initially, they didn't even have people vote for their senators. They had people vote for their local representatives who then elected the senators in the state legislatures, which that's true. JT for $20 says, from where I sit in Iowa, I have never felt that this amendment was being promoted properly to the Ohio populace. It seemed like they relied on the media to explain and promote the measure, but did not fight for it themselves. Well, that's every single referendum that we see. Every single one. The media explains it to people. Which way does the media lean? Even local media now. They lean more to the left. They're going to explain this the way that the left would explain it. And as a result, they're like, oh, well, you're losing the fabric of democracy and women's rights are at stake. That's how they promote these things. And then people are just like, oh, okay, fine. You know, we'll vote no. Even people that are Republicans that don't understand what's going on, that turn out to vote for these things, a lot of them also end up voting no. I know it's early, but this probably is not going to pass. They're probably going to call it any second now. So Nevada for 5 says it does get frustrating when GOP voters vote 3 different ways and leftists are almost always unanimous in who and what they vote for. We lose easier. I mean, that's another thing. They stick with their nominees. I mean, they even ran with people like John Fetterman and Katie Hobbs that were god-awful, but they got them through. There was a lot of unity from the start behind those candidates. If we had that on the right, instead of spending all this money trying to defeat them, we would have had a much better midterm year than we had last year. Cameron Campbell says, what's your opinion on the flag change in Utah? Do you think it should have been a vote? I haven't even seen that. Cameron Campbell also says the greatest argument against democracy is a 5-minute talk with the average voter. Winston C., I assume that's Winston Churchill, and it's true. The average voter, when it comes to policy, I'm not saying you can't have people vote. Obviously, some people, probably if you talk to them, is voting something that they should prioritize. I don't know, maybe not, but still, when it comes down to the exact policy, that we see being promoted, especially with these referendums. The average person has no idea what's going on. They don't even know the ins and outs of all of these things. And as a result, it is what it is. Even when they benefit us too, which, I mean, we'll take the wins we can get. But in Wisconsin, the very disappointing night that we had in the state of Wisconsin a few months ago, where Daniel Kelly lost by like 11 points in that Supreme Court race, you had down ballot conservative ballot measures that were kind of framed in a more conservative light. They were winning every single county. They were winning in Madison, of all places. They were winning in inner city Milwaukee. So it is true that when people vote even on these things, even when they favor us for some rare reason, it's not really a good correlation. And no, it doesn't mean anything for 2024. Trump will clear Ohio easily because that's like his brand. You talk about the presidential elections, it's a little bit different. You have higher turnout. Obviously, Ohio, that's going to vote for Trump by probably over 10 points. Might vote for him by like 12 points. I don't think this really dictates that, but it does show that there is a lot of apathy and a lot of people that just don't understand what they're voting for when they vote for these really complicated ballot measures. That's what it comes down to. And as of right now, 15% of the vote is in. No is up by 40 points. So it's very telling. And yes, it's going to narrow in some places. You're going to see more of these light orange counties possibly, I'm saying possibly because it's early, possibly turn into this turquoise aqua blue color that you're seeing on the screen here. But is it going to be enough? I don't know, especially in these counties like Mahoning County. These are Trump counties. These are Obama Trump counties. Some of them are even Clinton Trump counties. They didn't even come around fully to Trump until 2020. And you look at these counties and the way they're voting some of the most no heavy returns in the entire state so far. Montgomery County is another example. That's a swing county. I know these are likely early votes, so we'll wait and see. But like I said, it is a little disappointing. It's not like we gain anything or we lose anything if no ends up passing, which it likely will. But at the end of the day, we talk about November, you're going to have probably a greater chance that you will see abortion enter the Ohio State Constitution. So it is what it is. Now, let's see. Alex P. says, just moved from Colorado to Nevada. My Republican vote matters more now. Well, that's good. You know, Nevada, they need all the help they can get. They're getting a lot of help from California. This is something not a lot of people are really talking about, but it's true. On top of that, let's see. Miku Huntu4X says, big money will fund whatever they like. Yes, kills grassroots populist initiatives, and Republicans need to do a better job at convincing people, not give more power to neocons like DeWine for a short-term win. I mean, I understand that there is that argument against it, but the bottom line is most times we suck at these referendums. We are garbage at messaging, big money funding whatever they like, as the super chat says. I mean, they usually have moved, at least socially, to fund these more liberal causes, and we're kind of up against that. So that's why we kind of need to get big money out of politics. That's important, even more so than, we need term limits or whatever. Term limits aren't going to fix any problems with draining the swamp. I hate to say, you have people there like Mitch McConnell that shouldn't be there, and they're there for like 30 some years. But then on the other side, you have good politicians that have been there for 20, 30 years. They're a lot rarer to find, but they do exist. And they will replace Mitch McConnell with another Mitch McConnell a lot easier than you can replace a Paul Gosar with another Paul Gosar. We've seen this time and time again. So let's see. More super chats here. We have Cameron Campbell. This is why we're a republic, not a democracy. Very true. John Jelinek says, I think this would have passed if they split the 60% vote threshold and the 88 county signature requirement into two different issues. I don't know. The 60% is what everybody's talking about, though, so I'm not entirely sure if that would have really passed. Captain Crusader says, should we panic if Delaware County flips? Not necessarily. I mean, it's Ohio. Even if you lose a suburban county or two, they're not really going to offset the positive trends in a lot of these white working class suburban areas. And even so, Republicans tend to have a higher floor in a lot of these Rust Belt suburban counties, given educational demography. It's not always about urban versus suburban versus rural. A lot of it does stem down to educational demography. And that's something a lot of people aren't fully taking into account. So 20% of the vote is in. The no lead is shrunk to 41, but we have 81% of the way left before we know the final result. It will likely, like I said, narrow, but will it narrow by a meaningful amount to really flip this? I don't see it, but we'll see. So 25 minutes into the stream. Like the stream, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. You want to use the live chat, you have to subscribe. So there we go. There we go. So 19%, we're still waiting. We are still waiting. And this is just what it comes down to, and I think we've covered the reasons why. I didn't really anticipate this to pass from the get-go. I know some people were more optimistic than I was. I thought it'd fail by around 10 points, which may be the end result. We have a lot of votes that have not been tabulated, so we just don't know. On top of that, we have the Mississippi primary. I don't know if we're going to get to it. I think, the polls close in 1 minute. So we will, I guess, look through that. I mean, Tate Reeves is probably going to win regardless. He didn't really have enough serious opposition. He's not the number one most popular governor in the entire country, but at the same time, he doesn't really have a lot of challengers. But watch Chris McDaniel possibly making that lieutenant governor's race a lot closer. You have an incumbent there, but McDaniel has this tendency to kind of come and get a lot of the grassroots support. So we'll watch that. Other than that, the down ballot races, there's really nothing that's really all that eye-catching there. But Ohio, now yes is up by point. It's up by 0.4%, guys, since the last time we looked. Okay. We'll see. 30% of the vote almost so far that it's gotten. It's climbed up from, I think, 14, but that's not gonna be enough to do it. But we still have ways to go. We still have ways to go. But this is Republicans, and in Republican areas that are voting no, more so than the Republicans failed at turnout. This is proof Ohio's turning blue. I'm not saying this is a good thing, that this is the result, but this just it's just like not really evidence or proof that 2024 is going to be tough, or it's not even proof that Kentucky is going to be tough. I mean, Kentucky is going to be tough, but this isn't proof for we're going to lose Kentucky or Mississippi or Virginia. Those are individual races. We'll talk about them. And Kentucky is going to be the next big election. Well, I think Louisiana may be before that because they do their election on a Saturday or something weird. But I don't know. Polls have closed in Mississippi. Ohio, it hit 30. It hit 30. It's now under 40 points, guys. It's under 40 points. More super chats. We have Britton J. Orwin says, Utah in here. The flag change is being promoted by Senator Dan McKay. He's from California. Go figure. It's an attempt to erase Utah's history, and it appeases the woke mob. McKay is a jerk, too. Well, how exactly is the Utah flag offensive? I don't even know what the Utah flag, isn't it white and okay, what even is this? What exactly is offensive about this flag? I'm going to pull this up. This is the flag of Utah that everybody's upset about? I don't get it. Is this offensive? Industry, Utah, an eagle, American flags? That's what people are upset about? Why do they have to change this? What's wrong with this? Why do they have to change the flag? It's not a bad flag to even look at either. It's not like it's visually hard to look at. This is not a flag that should have people up in arms and talking about changing it. I don't know. Shout out to Juan for the $1. Sam Matson says in Missouri, the Secretary of State's playing hard against their 2024 abortion amendment that will be on the ballot by messing with the language saying this will allow unregulated and unsafe abortions. Well, that's exactly what it would do. And they do it to us. We should do it to them. They change the wording. Sometimes we'll put out the wording and we'll use their framework. And of course it's going to fail if you do that. Like, you got to be kidding me. JT says no 65, yes 35 final totals. I don't think that's going to happen. They would have called it by now if that's true. I think it's going to be closer than that, but I think it's going to obviously fall short. And maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. But Cincinnati's reported their early votes, Columbus, Cleveland. I don't think the left really has a whole lot of like big vote dumps on the way, even if they get some of these early dumps, and possibly we'll see some counties move to the right and flip. So it hasn't been called. It's very likely obviously we're going to see no prevail. I'm not going to say we're not, but still. Juan Restrepo says, how's this failing going to impact LaRosa's Senate bid? It's not going to impact it at all. If LaRose becomes the nominee, he'll win. If Moreno's the nominee, he'll probably win. If Dolan's the nominee, we might be a little screwed, but I still think Trump would be able to carry him. Cameron Campbell says it's literally just a beehive. Well, I know the new flag is a beehive. I did see that when I was looking that up. But I don't exactly know why they have to change the flag. It just doesn't make any sense. They're just changing history for no reason. That's what it is. There's no reason to change it. Why are you changing it? It's not like you make it a massive improvement. It's not like the flag is hard to look at to the point where, yeah, maybe getting a new flag would be better, would be an update. Why are they exactly trying to change the state history for no reason? I'm not entirely sure what they're doing there. Jason Christie says, have you ever heard of the YouTube channel Freedom Tunes? Yes, I have. I haven't watched Freedom Tunes in probably like months, but you know, it's normie content, but some of it's decent. Jonah Ludlow says, hey, I just want to say I love your channel. I've watched you since 2,000 subs, and I hope to see you run for office someday. Much love and keep it going. Well, thank you. 2,000 subs would probably be like early May 2019. So that's an early adopter. I feel like a lot of the people that watch like every stream have been there for a long time. I feel like a lot of the names that consistently pop up in chat have been with this channel for a long time, and that's something good. Cameron Campbell says, exactly, that's why I got the old flag and put it up in my room. Well, you have to push back on these people. There's no reason for anything they're doing, but they're doing it. So yes, the Cincy vote dump actually is why yes went under 30. So 21% of the vote is in. Real MAGA Patriot 1776 says, you think Pima County will go more red as more Mexicans trend toward the GOP? Well, they moved right the past couple cycles, the Hispanic voters, even in Arizona, and Tucson has moved to the left. So I don't really see it. Maybe you could say there's a stagnation that could happen because of it. But I mean, what we're seeing, even though we see these trends to the right with Hispanics in like Florida and even Texas and even other places, we haven't seen it so much in places like Arizona. Yeah, in some places, some counties, some neighborhoods, true. But overall, you haven't seen the same effect. Like even Hispanics in California, they've been moving to the right more so than Hispanics in places like Arizona, and even certain parts of New Mexico as well. So we have more super chats on the way. Optic Big Evil says, Ohio is screwed. Mandel was their strongest Republican and he declined. I disagree. Mandel kind of disgraced himself even further with his run in 2022. All he did was say these pandering talking points. He would pander to MAGA boomers, and obviously he wanted the Trump endorsement so bad. Trump saw right through it. I mean, he saw right through it. He endorsed Vance, and Vance ended up winning the primary, the general. He's our best senator right now, one could say. Mandel, I disagree. I think overall, look who's been behind him. Bill Kristol wanted him to run in 2018. That was after Bill Kristol was already like a never-Trumper. That's like the camp he really comes from. I think he's more of a grifter overall, especially because he's been in politics his entire life. You know, you look at somebody like Vance and Moreno, you could say they had more liberal pasts or whatever, but I mean, at least their conversion seems a little bit more genuine compared to these people that have been in the political class and then start to LARP as like this average everyday working class warrior, Ohio MAGA patriot. It's like you were a neocon last Thursday. What are you doing out here? Matt Sporik says, report said 600,000 early votes. Do you think that gives enough room for a comeback? Well, I don't know if we're going to see a comeback, but I think we're going to see it narrow. We'll see. It's early on. I'm not trying to doom for the sake of dooming, but it's just not looking good, especially because of the early vote totals. And like these Trump counties like Mahoning, they're matching these liberal counties like Cleveland almost and Cincinnati. So obviously things can change. The margins can narrow. I'm not saying they can't. We'll see what happens. But as of right now, I don't see it happening. Then we have Mississippi, which we're not going to cover in full, but we'll look at the numbers there periodically, and we'll see what happens there if there's any movement. Let's see. Britton J. Orwin says wokeism is sadly gaining ground in Utah. I agree. I mean, you have governor pronouns there. You have governor that said, oh, well, you know, scholarship programs that exclude white people, oh, they're fine. They're retribution. Spencer Cox is one of the biggest cucks. Honestly, he angers me more than somebody like Phil Scott. Phil Scott may be to the left of Biden, arguably, but he's in Vermont. He's the Republican governor of Vermont. You have Utah. It's a solid red state, even though the GOP has a lot of cucks there. But then you have Spencer Cox as the governor there, and look at what he's doing. He's the guy that goes into these Zoom meetings, says, hi, guys, my pronouns are he, him, all this stuff. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You are supposed to be a conservative, a Republican, and you're out there using the most annoying social customs that the left is trying to push through and develop to protect 0.2% of the population from getting their feelings hurt. So that's what he's doing. He's horrible on a lot of things. It's not even that kind of stuff, but he is the definition of woke. He's probably one of the wokest, most virtue-signaling governors, and he has an R next to his name and is in an R plus 20 state. Very sad. It's the state that had the most, it was the most Republican state in 2012, even more Republican than West Virginia, more Republican than Wyoming. And I know that you could say that Romney being Mormon had a lot to do with that, but that's still beside the point. Jason Christie for 20 says, I think they're changing it to be more unique since a lot of states have blue backgrounds. Not saying it's a good decision, but I think that's their logic. Also, look at the Trial of DJT episode. It's so funny. I haven't seen that one yet, but in terms of the Utah thing, it's like, so why do they have to do that? You have a guy that's leading the charge that apparently is from California, didn't even live in the state until probably like 10 years ago. He's the one leading the charge. He's the one leading the fight to change a state flag for no reason. And it's still a blue and red flag. They just have like a modernistic, ugly, like yellow beehive on it. Okay, like that's very welcoming. Bees, okay. IB says, I don't know. We said Kansas referendum wouldn't mean anything in Dems. It didn't mean anything, though. The Democrats keeping the Senate had literally nothing to do with the Kansas referendum. I mean, maybe you could say the left is fired up on the issue of abortion, and that changed a couple of elections by a few points here and there. And I could say maybe that's true. Maybe if Roe wasn't overturned, Republicans would have still managed to hold Georgia and Nevada, and they would have had the Senate. Okay, maybe you can make that argument, but at the end of the day, Kansas didn't really mean anything with that one referendum. On that day, you had like a ridiculously high amount of votes in the Republican primary compared to the Democrat primary. I mean, it's just the way these things are framed and the way these things are voted on, the money that they spend on these things. I think that has more to do with it than, oh, well, this election in Kansas means Republicans aren't winning the Senate because they won the Senate seat in Kansas by a ridiculous margin. They didn't win the governorship there, but I think 2022 showed incumbent governors, they have incumbent privilege. They have the incumbent mandate for some reason. And then I look back to 2010 because I'm like, okay, well then wouldn't we flip a bunch of governorships in 2010? Like, we didn't do that now. But then I look at those seats, they're all open seats. And we flipped 2 incumbent governorships, one in Ohio with a very unpopular Democrat governor, and then John Kasich was a major political power player in the state for quite some time, and then we flipped Iowa. and Iowa had a Democrat governor who was not too popular, and you had a Republican governor, a former governor, running against him that beat him. So then I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, interesting, because maybe down ballot effects, you combine everything, 2022 wasn't historically all that egregious when you look at that. It was a bad year for the down ballot effect, but I don't know. And I will say that abortion definitely fired up Dems and maybe made some independents, some of them vote blue at the state level, but it wouldn't have been enough to save Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, maybe Arizona, but like as much as people like to trash Lake, even on the right for some reason, she made it a non-issue. She didn't talk about it. So we can argue why that race was lost, obviously, but still, it's kind of beside the point. So yes is now at 31%. More votes are being tabulated as the map fills in. Republicans, or I would say no, because it's not a partisan race technically. The no votes are getting lesser and lesser of the vote share. The yes votes are increasing, but that means the yes vote that's remaining, they have to outdo the no vote by probably around 60 to 40. So is that really realistic? Or maybe you could even say 57 to 43. I don't know if the math is really there for that to happen. So it is what it is, guys. But nevertheless, we have more super chats. Axiom says Tate Reeves changed the flag of Mississippi. I know. And that was not a good thing. And he actually did it out of political correctness. He co-signed it. And obviously some people may say the new flag looks good. I think the new flag looks fine. But it's because of political correctness why he caved. He caved because of political correctness. That flag was not a problem for how many years? 200 years plus. That flag was not a problem. Nobody said anything about it. But now, because BLM's rioting, let's cave to these enemies. Let's cave to the political enemies that we have and cave to the woke mob and change the state flag. Yeah, let's do that. Whatever. Heisenberg 2400 says they're changing the flag because it's boring. It's a state seal on a blue field and it looks similar to 20 other state flags. I don't care. Personally, I don't care. Why change the history of it? It's just dumb. It's pointless. The new flag is mediocre at best. Baseball Joe 06 says, can you please go on LTE and set that commie right? Well, I've never been invited to do a debate with him or his channel. People have asked that for years now. Almost, I guess you would say going on 5 years, because I've had this channel, or maybe I'll say 4 years, going on 4 years, because I've had this channel for, well, actually it has been over 4 years. It would be going on 5 years. I had this channel for almost 5 years, and people have been saying that from the onset of my first little rise up in subs, and it's never happened, so it's not going to happen. Colin Minimi says, bet you yes catches up at 50 to 60% of the votes counted. No look back ahead at 70, 80. Last 10% takes days with result already called. Patterns always the same. Well, I'm just saying it's a little bit early, obviously, but this is a pretty wide gap. If this was like 60-40, I'd say yes, you should be feeling pretty good right now, depending on the rest of those votes and the way they come in. But still, I mean, well, they did put in Akron, they put in Summit County. That's the last big county that leans a little bit to the left that they put in there. Monroe, Highland, and Logan, those are red counties. There's not a lot of votes there, though. But those are going to be the early votes that are going to come in, fill out the map, and then we're going to start to see kind of a yes avalanche, maybe. But I don't really think it's going to be enough right now. Itachi of the Deserts advanced one by over 6%. Ohio's a red state now. How is yes getting a huge shellacking? Is it this all early voting? Because people don't know what they're voting on. And there are a lot of Republicans, even some in this live chat, that are defending votes for voting no. So that's kind of what it is. It isn't, oh, Republicans are sucking at turnout again. No, their turnout is fine. We're seeing this here. I mean, in the early vote, they got a decent turnout, but a lot of their votes haven't been going the way that we would have liked for them to go. Optic Big Evil says Wasserman has called it for the no vote. That's not surprising. I kind of basically did the same. Polite Rude Guy says I emailed Trump's lawyer offering to help start a petition to get the exculpatory evidence. President Trump's lawyer responded to me. Not sure what you mean by that. I guess you would mean for his trials, helping him out, getting some evidence for it. Cameron Campbell says, 1, if a pro-choice person tries to talk about extremism, try and bring up the Born Alive bill. 2, pray for my stepdad as he has kidney stones. Well, I will be doing that, and I encourage the audience to do that as well. Kidney stones, never had one, but they are painful. On top of that, yeah, they can't talk about extremism, but we go on defense about abortion instead of offense, and we lose every time. I mean, Trump in 2016 against Hillary on the debate stage, like, Trump isn't like the most, I guess you would say, like 100% ban abortion type of guy. He's more of the leave it up to the states, and then we'll talk about maybe a national level, like 15-week ban or whatever type of guy. But he's not even going to touch that because he knows it's like the third rail with some people. But we're looking at how he, I guess you would say, framed it in the debate against Hillary. He said, oh, you talk about abortion, this is what you want to do, pulling the baby out of the womb at the 9th month and like essentially doing disgusting things to it that I'm not going to mention for just gore purposes. And it's true. That's what they do. They take it out, they rip it out, and they do things to it that are disgraceful. And that's what they do. That's what they want. That's the country they want. Even Europe, which is pretty liberal on abortion, they have pretty sensible legislation compared to us. You know, they set like a first trimester ban in a lot of these Nordic countries in Western Europe. And we can't even have a 20-week ban here without people getting bent out of shape. So it's sad. It really is. Nick H. says, Rufus said that DeSantis will surge now that he's fired Jenna Rapek. Well, we've been hearing about the reboots in the DeSantis campaign for how long now? And if they happen, no. Is this campaign more incompetent than ever? Yes. Are they throwing in the towel? Pretty much. Now they're blocking a lot of Trump influencers now. They were interacting with them, thinking that would help them, and maybe blocking them, I guess you would say, would hurt them in a way, or would help them in a way because they wouldn't be looking as insufferable to people. But at the same time, it makes him look even more delusional. DeSantis, from what I've heard, allegedly, behind the scenes, he's questioning people why he isn't ahead in the polls. And it's like, these people are just delusional. There was no reason for him to run. He threw a lot away. Trump's going to be the nominee. Rally behind him. We'll hopefully do anything we can to get him above the finish line in 2024. No, it's not guaranteed. No, DeSantis is not more electable than Trump in any universe, even if Trump goes to jail. Given a lot of other factors, whether if it's his policy, his lack of charisma, a divided primary base. I mean, there's so many reasons why that is the case. But you think, oh, they're going to make it about Trump's indictments. With DeSantis, they're going to make it about abortion, and they're going to make it about Social Security. They're going to make it about Medicare, healthcare, and DeSantis is going to fall flat on his face. And Biden's going to run to DeSantis's, like, I wouldn't say right on trade, but like to the populist side of things on those issues, kind of at least get some white working class voters to stay home. It's going to be brutal. Be a very, very disastrous electoral night for Ron DeSantis if he is to get the Republican nomination, but he's not going to. And all these reboots aren't really changing a lot. Exactly says, I heard Robert Barnes, who I respect a lot, say that this referendum is a bad idea, feels that it could give Dems power in the future to amend. I mean, there are these arguments they're throwing out there, but this is mainly like a snapshot in time for the next election. And that's what people that know what they're voting on are kind of voting on. I understand the argument against it. I just don't believe that these referendums are going to end up favoring us, and they're going to favor Dems anyways if they put all of these amendments out there. And if they're passing with 50%, it's a lot easier for that to happen than them passing them with 60% of the votes. So that's kind of what I see this as, like that dam that's in there that's kind of preventing a lot of more dangerous liberal legislation from getting through under the guise of democracy and the voter base. So Spencer G says, what is your opinion on Dave Rubin and his political views? I'm not really a fan. First of all, he's a big DeSantis influencer. And on top of that, it's funny, DeSantis' campaign is trying to pass it off as, oh, well, DeSantis is this guy who's like actually going to take a stand on the alphabet issues. And then DeSantis is like sending personalized like onesies to these kids that aren't even technically his. And it's like, the guy was a liberal like 5-6 years ago. Then he's a Trump influencer. Then he's a DeSantis influencer. It's just like, it's exhausting. Patrick Kennedy says, interesting how they can call Ohio within hours of the poll closing, but some places take days and days. Well, Ohio has a competent voting operation there, kind of how Florida does, and they count the ballots in a very timely manner, and a lot of states don't exactly do that. And as a result, Ohio, we know the results. Nevada is a complete and total disaster. So 24% of the votes are in, and it's 68.7 to 31.3, and the no vote is shrinking slowly, but not really as fast enough as we would like for it to. That one county, Monroe, they put in there, there are more ballots that are tabulated from there, and it's 52 to 48. Highland County, Logan County, those are still up for grabs. Tate Reeves has a lead in the primary for governor. Chris McDaniel has a lead, though. It's very early, 40 votes overall. Tate Reeves with a lead, and Chris McDaniel beating an incumbent 80 to 20. Very early on, though. Very, very early on. But that would be an upset, and that would be an upgrade there, too, at the Mississippi Lieutenant Governor's post. So 1,250 viewers in live chat. Like the live stream down below. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Hit the bell. And make sure, if you have any questions for me, feel free to super chat. We're getting to all the super chats tonight. We're not leaving any out. At least not yet. Hopefully we don't leave any out. Let's see. Sam Madsen says, abortion may explain why the left turned out, but it does not explain why Tim Walz was winning 44% of white working class voters and 40% of gun owners. It does not. Part of that is Jensen was an awful candidate. Part of it was a lot of conservative white working class voters and gun owners. I mean, assuming most gun owners tend to lean more conservative anyways, but a lot of them didn't turn out. And Walz is an incumbent governor who a lot of people vote for based off of vibes. They vote for him based off of vibes. You know, he represented a district that I think voted heavily for Donald Trump when he was in Congress, and he's been extremely destructive, but Republicans are too afraid to really go on offense on messaging and kind of wedge the Dems for what they are. They say they're too radical, they're too woke, but then nobody can really define it. They need to say what they're doing that exactly is making them so woke. It's just like they don't fully get it. They don't know how messaging works. They drop the ball at every opportunity and they lose. And that's the way it works. And Cameron Campbell says DeSantis is delusional. Vivek will get the nomination before DeSantis ever does. I don't think either of them are getting the nomination, for the record. I don't think Vivek is delusional, though. I know Vivek thinks that he doesn't really have a real shot. Maybe he views, if Trump actually does go to jail, then he would get a lot of his support, and if Trump dropped out. But I don't think Vivek wants that to happen. I don't think he has bad intentions. I do think that on policy, he has a lot of blind spots, and I would not support him over Trump because of trade and immigration, which is a really big one. And I know I think he has a dialogue about it. He doesn't try to shut down debate, which I think is good. But I do think that that he's off base in those areas. Matt Sporik says, not sure if you are a fellow Ohioan. No, I'm not. I am technically a native Michigander, which technically is not exactly, we're not on the best terms with Ohio for multiple reasons. Not a fan of the University of Michigan, though, so I guess I'm not one of those people. But if this is something that does pass, how big of a meltdown are you expecting from the libs? I personally can't wait. Well, they'd have a pretty big meltdown, but I don't see it passing. Wasserman called it, which I know is not entirely perfect, and I know the yes vote is gaining, and I know that it's going to narrow. It's not going to stay at this margin. I've said that from the get-go, but I predicted that this is going to fail by around 10, like 55-45. So we'll see. I'd like to be proven wrong. I really would. This isn't me dooming for the sake of concern dooming, but I just don't see it passing. And part of that is you had a lot of, like I said, Republicans that were voting against it. So that's the way it is. 55 minutes in, like the stream, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that good stuff. We're waiting. We're waiting for more ballots to come in. We're 25% of the vote in. It's gained 1% over the past couple percentage points. I mean, if it keeps doing that, there's a shot. But, I mean, there's a lot of votes that have to come in from a lot of blue areas as well, even if they're election day votes. But even then, we have a lot more from red areas that haven't come in yet. So it should be an interestingly fun night. We're gonna do a video tomorrow recapping it. I'm not gonna stream on Thursday. I will say that because I will be out of town. I might do a comeback stream on Sunday, so I'm only gonna be missing one stream, and we'll go from there. But I will pre-record some content, so you guys are not gonna have this rep content drought while I'm not here. But let's see. Nothing new on that front. We have a super chat. Jeremy G says, are you an MSU fan or Michigan fan because of an Ohio State fan? I would say I lean more towards the MSU fan side of things. That's just the way it is. I don't hate Ohio State. I don't like Ohio State. They're just there. I'm not the biggest college football fan. Like, I'll watch, I'll pay attention. I'm more of an NFL guy personally. I love the Lions. We are going to have a big year on our hands this year. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of hype, but that's a lot of hype that's got to be lived up to for it to really count. So VW Bear says, let's all point fingers at big-lipped Rana again. Well, this isn't a Republican versus Democrat thing, though. This is just an issue in Ohio. I think you'd have to point to the Ohio Republican Party, if anything, or the Ohio conservative groups, more so than the national GOP. There's a lot to blame Rana for. I did a whole documentary trashing her. I did several videos trashing her, why she should not be the RNC chair. But this is not a fault of hers necessarily. But she's the manager. You have a GM on a sports team. They don't get away with that many losses in a row. It's like Trump's the quarterback more so than anything. You know, you have a decent quarterback, you can win with them, but they don't want to in many cases. A lot of controlled opposition within the GOP. They want to throw 2024. They really do. Deep down. They want the Senate, so maybe they don't even, because McConnell didn't even want it in the first place. But maybe they will get the Senate, because I think Daines wants the Senate, and he's controlling the funding. So he'll get the Senate. And then on top of that, maybe the House will be kept. I don't know. That's 50-50. But the presidency, I mean, a lot of Republicans, maybe not us or the voter base, but like a lot of Republicans wanted Trump to lose 2016 because they felt like, oh, he'll be out of the way. You know, we'll work with Hillary. And obviously they'll never admit that. But deep down, that sentiment was there. And then 2020, a lot of Republicans did endorse Biden. Maybe not people in office, but a lot of these political class Republicans did. And now in 2024, you're probably going to see a repeat of that. Or maybe because Biden's failed, they'll go third party publicly. But secretly, they don't want to win. They could be winning by a lot right now if they actually tried and put, you know, their resources together. We would have a country. We don't have a country right now because these people don't know how to win. They blame the people that actually want to. But either way, we're quietly seeing yes grow to 33%. I don't know where these votes are coming in from. Let's see. Are there any counties that are almost all the way in here? There's a couple. Wyandotte County. We could be comparing this to 2020 as well in Ohio. We could be comparing the counties that are all the way in. We could see if there's a shot for it. Let's see if I could pull this up real quick, because then we might be able to kind of make a comparison. Obviously, doesn't have to pass by 8%, so you just have to look at how far behind it's really lagging. But let's see. Wyandotte County. I don't know where that is. Oh, here it is. 63-37. This is south of Toledo. I think I-75 just misses it. Wyandotte County, yes by 24, 89% in. This county voted for Trump by 50, and this is voting for it by 24. So there's a lag. It's not as bad as it was, but the lag does exist, and I'm not going to pretend that it exactly doesn't. So by the way, we're also streaming on Rumble. If you're watching on Rumble, make sure you like as well. Make sure you subscribe to the Rumble. And even if you're not watching on Rumble, feel free to subscribe to the Rumble, because this is like the 4th or 5th stream that we're actually simulcasting on, because we like to tap into these alt tech platforms. And Rumble's grown a lot recently. The UI is getting better. They obviously have Trump. They've got some people exclusively streaming on Rumble. They're kind of growing a network, and maybe that's why YouTube's TOS has changed a bit recently about certain things, because they know that they have competition now, which is good. But 67 to 32. So it's narrowing. I'm not saying it's narrowing by a ridiculous amount, but is it narrowing at all? It is narrowing. So Mississippi, we'll go back to that. Nothing out of Mississippi besides that one county. But Chris McDaniel, watch for the upset there if we're not covering it all on stream. Because, I mean, we might not be covering this for 4 or 5 hours. It's not going to be one of those election nights, I know. We'll wait. We'll get to that this November. But either way, just looking at that, it's like interesting. Because that could be an upset. That'd be a positive upset. It would be. Belfagor says $5 for respecting EST, $5 for respecting TOS. This guy gives me trash every single live stream before we start the live stream, because I usually stream late, and that's what I've always done. And people ask why, and there are reasons. Because I'm in Central Time. I know I stream probably later when I wasn't, but 2, I mean, I do things in my day, and I like to stream at night. And 3, there's not a lot of other people streaming at that time, so we kind of get in the time slot. There's no real correlation with time and viewers. But I'm an EST disrespecter technically, even though people can watch the replay as much as they want, and they can send super chats before the stream, and then I will obviously get to them, and then they can watch it on replay. But it doesn't matter. It's just funny. And I know I'm late. Not only are we late to like a lot of streams that we do, not like super late, but it's like the meme, 2 minutes late, he's late again, Late Eagle Politics, whatever. But it's funny. Yeah, we don't respect EST very often, but when there's an election, we have to respect EST. And then, yeah, there's the very rare occasional 4 p.m. Sunday stream that happens every like other month or so, but still, I like streaming. We kind of, for a while, weren't really in a set schedule, but it feels like this year we've been streaming a lot more than last year. Not just talking about election streams, but it's going to be a lot of those next year, because not only do we have the primaries for like the presidential races like every single week for months, but also we have the Senate primaries, the House primaries. Those are going to be pretty big too, and there's a lot of content that's going to be coming next year, so do stay tuned. It's going to be a very big year for the channel, and a very big year for our country. So no rose up, actually no fell more. Yes has more than a third of the vote now, 27% of the vote reporting. More counties are pouring in, and they are getting bluer and bluer, and that's a good thing somehow on this map for whatever reason. So just trying to see the counties that are most of the way in here, if we really can. Monroe County 60-40. Which, again, Monroe County, that's not, the margin's not there, but there's a lot of votes left. It's only 60% of the vote that's remaining there, but we're looking. Noble County, 68% of the vote is in Noble County. Not even sure where that is, but here it is, 63-37. That county, that's an 81-18 Trump County, so I don't know. Either way, yes, we'll gain, but probably not by a ridiculous amount. It's probably not going to win, but we'll see. IB says, I'm sorry to say this, but it looks like many of these places have shifted left. Franklin was Biden +2, and it voted no by 35. Well, Franklin, Biden +2? Franklin's not Biden +2. Franklin's Biden +35. I think you're talking about some other county. Not sure what it is. Maybe Montgomery. But still, that's early. And like I said, you have Republicans voting, and they're voting no. There have been influencers on the right that said, vote no. So we'll see. The big elections in November, it's disappointing it's not passing. But like I said, you have a unique coalition that's voting no. And that's not a good thing for us in this case, but they have their reasons, some of which I don't believe are legitimate reasons, but it is what it is. Nothing out of Mississippi. So, yeah, 65-30. I mean, it's getting closer. It's getting closer and closer. But it's not exactly good enough right now. More super chats, though. We have more. But yeah, like I said, shifting left from this election or from last election to this election doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, because different coalitions are voting for different things on this referendum. It doesn't have to do with, do you like Trump or do you like Biden, or do you like Bernie Moreno or do you like Sherrod Brown? That's what we got to focus on for 2024. So Dr. NO Bunch of Numbers says, how much will you be paying attention to the DeSantis-Newsom debate in November? It is what it is. It's a sideshow. DeSantis isn't going to be the nominee. Newsom's not going to be the nominee. DeSantis, it's a self-inflicted wound on his part, because he's not a good debater. He's really not. You can watch his debate with Gillum, watch his debate with Christ. Even if you want to say, oh, I agree with him more than the other side, it's like, yeah, I'm going to agree with him more than Newsom, obviously, but that doesn't make him a great debater or a great speaker. And possibly Newsom getting some one-liners on him, it could just do him in even further in the primary. I don't know what he's doing. And Newsom's not going to be the Democrat nominee, so I think it's just a sideshow debate. Fox needs a ratings grab, but is that even going to bring in the ratings? I don't even know if it will. Richard Head says, is Michigan a lost cause at this point? Both the state and federal level seems gone. Time to relocate it. Well, I wouldn't say it's a lost cause. It voted for Biden by less than 3. It also voted for Obama by like 10 points or so. Probably the first time voted for him by 17. Second time voted for him by 9. So you could say it's moved to the right to an extent. We just have a very useless state party, incompetent state party, and it's a beautiful state. I think it's a beautiful state overall. I mean, the landscape there, very underrated. I didn't really appreciate it as much until I moved to Texas, which, I mean, there are pros to Texas, obviously, but it's a little bit of a different vibe. But I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm going to relocate because the politics of the state mean it's gone. For all we know, we win it in 2024. I'm not saying it's likely, but we'll see what happens with the coup in the state party. And now it's under 30. With 28% of the vote in, it's under 30. So more counties are pouring in. Sandusky County is 95% of the vote is in Sandusky. Sandusky voted for Trump by 27. It's voting for yes. Believe it or not, it's voting yes by 12. But like I said, that's not the margin that's going to cut it. This means that the end result is going to be more in line with my prediction than the early returns, which is good. But if that's going to be if that's going to be all the votes in Sandusky, and you're not hitting that margin, that's not good, because like I said, Yes does not have to perform in line with Trump. But if you're underperforming it compared to the net margin over no by like 20 points in every county, you're going to fail by around 10 points. That's the way it is. So that's kind of the way I see it. Putnam County, this county's voting yes 82-18 though. And it's actually, I wouldn't say outperforming Trump, but that's performing in line with Trump. Holmes County, that's not all the way in. Some of these counties aren't all the way in. Van Wert County, 68-32. That's 77-20. So more votes will come in. These counties will move right for sure. That's good, but is it really hitting the margin necessarily that it needs to? No, it's falling short so far. Now, if it turns out that turnout in Cleveland and Cincy is just that awful, then maybe it could be enough to offset it, but I haven't really seen that quite yet. Glenn Hutchcraft, thank you for the 2. IB says many of these places shifted left. Well, like I said, it's a uniform shift to the left. Has nothing to do with Ohio's moving to the left, Ohio's turning blue. No, all of that is just nonsense. It's not true. Ohio is very much trending right, but are they ready to vote for a referendum like this? We see referendums like this fail in like Montana, Kentucky, a lot of other states that are a lot redder than Ohio is and may ever will be in the case of Kentucky. So Austin says, I'm an Ohio resident, voted in 20 and 22, had to vote in provisional today, was not in the rolls in any county in the state. Strange and frustrating, took 45 minutes. Well, at least it seems like you did vote. Everyone needs to keep up to date on their voter registration. But I will say, I don't know why people get thrown off the rolls like that. I can't comment on that either way, but make sure you guys prepare ahead of time before Election Day so you don't run into any problems. We need every single vote that we possibly can get. Vote early if you can as well. I think voting early, a lot of people on the right, including Trump and myself, have trashed it in the past, but I mean, we need to as many people voting as early as possible just to make sure that the party's not trying to find you at the last minute. They can find other people. The Dems are finding people to turn out on Election Day. They're busing them into the polls. We don't do that. We don't do any of that. We lose. We bend over backwards and we lose. It's sad. And we complain, oh, imagine if the rules were reversed. It's like, then let's just reverse them and win. Enough is enough already. Mr. VIP says, I live in Southeast Ohio. Noble's a tiny rural county. We found it. We found it. So 29% of the vote is in now. And yes is creeping closer. It's at 36%. It's getting closer and closer. Zachary G for 10 says, I don't think Biden will be the nominee because he's taking too many days off and the legal trouble he's in. I also think Dems are so worried they might lose 24. They're going to lose it. I mean, if Biden's going to lose it, what makes you think anybody else is going to win it for them? They don't have a bench. Newsom? Really? They're going to run Newsom? I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever. They don't have anybody else. As much as people like to talk about RFK Jr., he'd be lucky to get 20% in the Democrat primary. They don't like him there. So you're looking at the big picture here, and it's like, yeah, I don't think him taking days off means that he's not running. How many days did he spend in the basement in 2020? Way too many. Robert V 2004 says, Virginia has Youngkin. Is it going red in 24, or is it a fluke? I don't think it's a fluke per se, but I don't think it's going red in 24. Those statewide governors' elections vote a lot differently than national elections pretty much everywhere. Vermont has a Republican governor. Massachusetts and Maryland had one each for 8 years. So R. Watkinski says, how do you feel about Kari Lake running for Senate in 2024? I would much rather have Blake Masters. I don't know if he's going to run. I would like to see him run. I think Lake would do a very good job as Trump's press secretary overall. A lot of people really like her. She's divisive, but that's good for that role. That's really good for that role. Maybe she'll have future aspirations after she shines in the media, because she's very good with the press. She was in media for a very long time. She's very intelligent. A lot of people don't give her credit where it's due. She's a very good speaker overall and knows how to handle the media and could easily be a very good attack dog for pretty much anybody. And I think Trump knows that. She likes Trump a lot. She could really shine as that press secretary, either for his campaign or for his presidency if he gets another term. Iridescent says, same experience, voted in 2020, 22 primary, and in special elections they didn't have me in their system. Interesting. Matt Sporick says, will this teach Ohio GOP to better influence people to get out and vote? Dems did a good job at getting young millennials out to vote. Well, I think, like I said, you have people voting and they don't know what they're voting on. That's the main problem here. It's not, oh, well, Republicans are failing. It's the Republican Party. No, people are voting in these deep red counties and they're voting no because they don't understand it. Because like I said, this is a very complex topic. Not a lot of people are going to understand. That's why I don't like these referendums. That's why I would vote yes to raise the threshold from 50 to 60 in the first place. So the margins will narrow. The counties around Cincy, when they get their vote dumps, they will all probably flip blue. And when I mean flip blue, I mean flip to yes, which is a good thing. But we're 30% in, and yes is down by 23.8%. So we have a long way to go overall. But let's see. Any other counties that are 95% in that we recognize offhand? Doesn't seem like there are any extras in here. But we are comparing them. Some of them have been in line with, like Putnam County, that's been in line with Trump's. Sandusky's, that hasn't been in line with Trump exactly. So, and there's also a lot less ancestral Republicans in some of these counties in this northern part of the state where Obama carried a lot of these counties. And then on the other hand, you saw a lot of these counties go for Donald Trump, and they're getting redder and redder every cycle because Trump's brand of conservatism in politics plays out well there, but maybe traditional Republican brands don't play out well. So let's see. 31% of the vote is in Mississippi. We have votes out of Mississippi. McDaniel is still in the lead. He leads by 9. He's clearing the runoff threshold as of right now. That's big-time stuff if it holds up. But will it? I don't know. I don't know who Tiffany Longino is, but that's like 5 votes in that entire county. So I don't think that really plays a role. But Tate Reeves, he's clearing. And the fact that he's got a lot of the party behind him so far is a good thing for his re-election bid sake overall. I mean, would I have liked to see somebody primary him out? Yeah, but his approvals have kind of bounced back since then, so it's not like an urgent thing that, oh, we need to get rid of this guy or lose to the Dems in November, because he's improved his popularity. It's not high, but it's above water, as most governors are, which is all you need for re-election. And on top of that, Brandon Presley, his numbers are way down. I mean, he's really showed his rear end and what he stands for, so it's going to be fun seeing him go down. The fake blue dogs, the fake moderates. I don't like these people. I really don't. On the other hand, we don't do the same thing back in some of these places. I mean, when you do have people, you have like Phil Scott or Charlie Baker. They're not fake moderates. They're real moderates, and they don't really move the states one way or another. Let's see. Matt Sporix says, Summit County native, keep an eye on Medina and Portage. If those flip, it could foreshadow a win. Let's see. I don't even know where those... I don't think that those county... Well, Medina voted for Trump by 24. Those flip, it doesn't foreshadow anything to me. That's why I didn't even really recognize those counties firsthand as like competitive counties. Portage County as well. That one voted for Trump by 12. If that flips, that's more of a sign. But Medina, no. Medina should be a yes vote. If it's not a yes vote, yes is not having a very good night. So, speaking of yes improving, now the margin's under 26 with a third of the vote in. So, for the remainder of the vote, Republicans are going to need to get like 58, or yes, I should say, not Republicans. Yes is going to need like 58% of the remainder of the vote. But again, you have a lot of blue areas that have their election day votes that haven't been reported. So I don't know. We have a Rumble Super Chat. LinRx52 sends the first ever Rumble Super Chat on this channel, saying just trying out the Rumble Super Chat. Thank you. I have to check the chat every once in a while on Rumble, because for some reason StreamYard only shows YouTube, at least for now. They might fix that at some point as Rumble grows in popularity. But thank you for the Rumble Super Chat. Also, yes is under 25% of a deficit. It's now, well, actually, no, it's under 20. It's under, it's 26%, I should say. It's 26.4. I misread that for a second there, but we'll go back to Mississippi. Nothing new out of Mississippi. But Ohio, a third of the vote in out of Ohio. 1 million votes so far. That means 3 million were cast or around there. It's pretty big. I mean, Ohio's population, it's like decent voter turnout for a random Tuesday in August. For something that most people don't even know what they're probably voting for. But there is a lot of room to grow. There's a lot of orange to turn blue, to turn aqua. We have more super chats as a whole. Username says had to vote no in Franklin. It's a power grab. Read the bill. A lot of people are saying they're voting no, and like I said, that's kind of what tells the difference here, more so than anything else. That's what tells the difference. People believe it's a psyop for whatever reason. We can have that debate. We can have that debate all we want, but this is kind of a failure of people even if you are somebody that supports no, people not knowing what they're voting on. Because if people on the Republican side are saying it's a psyop and people should vote no, well, then a lot of Republicans are voting yes. But the bottom line is a lot of Republicans are turning out. A lot of the base is turning out for this election. Even if it fails, you can't look at this and say, oh, well, I feel so bad about our prospects in Ohio in the future or in the Rust Belt in the future. And somehow some moron on Twitter is going to blame Trump for this. I guarantee it. Somehow, some way. I don't know. They'll find a way, even though he doesn't have anything to do with this. It's yes and no. Trump didn't even make a statement about this. But still, some way, somehow, they're going to blame none other than Donald Trump for this, just like the midterms when he wasn't on the ballot. So, in fact, this guy I was arguing with, I think, said, oh, well, the midterms prove Trump can't win because we can't win with Trump's on the ballot. It's like, no, Trump wasn't on the ballot in the midterms. How does that prove anything? Get that through your 90, I wouldn't even say 90, I'd say more like 25 IQ skull. These people, keeping it sweet, says, are there any true moderates out there, or are they just liberals in disguise? Well, a lot of people that say moderate are technically liberals or neoliberals or neocons. Like, if you have somebody that supports universal health care, but then they also support building a border wall, are they a moderate? Because technically those are two policies that are on different sides of the political spectrum, but they happen to hold them. But if you have somebody that thinks, oh, well, we need to legalize and promote this transgender whatever agenda, but then on the other hand, we want to bomb all these countries overseas, is that a moderate? Because they will say that's a moderate, but the person that's like, socially I'm a little bit more conservative, but I'm open to some economically liberal things, that person is branded a rhino, not just a rhino, but they're branded as like somebody that's far right, which is interesting. This Trump himself has been hit from both sides of that angle, and he's somebody that I think Trump's like a true moderate, if you want me to be completely honest with you. I have disagreements with him here and there. Also, Ashtabula County flipped yes. Ashtabula County, which is a county that voted for Obama, then voted for Trump. It did flip yes. Not by a lot, but it did flip yes. That's good. As more votes are coming in, yes is now down by just 25%, 35% of the vote reporting. New York Times has not called it. Wasserman, I believe, has, but we'll see. Okay. Maddie C says, Wayne County native, very shocked that no is winning currently. Well, it's early. And Wayne County in Ohio, because that's very different than Wayne County, Michigan. Where is Wayne? Somewhere. Here it is. Yeah. That's not going to probably last. Wayne voted for Trump by 27. Or no, it voted for Trump by 37. Yeah, that's going to flip. Wayne County's going to flip. Medina probably flips. But like Lorain and Lake, some of these counties, yeah, I don't honestly see them flipping. Lorain is another Hillary Trump county, a Clinton Trump county, just like Mahoning is, which is interesting. Counties that Trump did better in after a first term than he did in before he got into office. So there are a few of those. There are a few of those in the Rust Belt that flipped or moved to the right, I should say, in 2020. 62-38. It's a 24-point game. Every percent that goes by, it seems like or the margin of no, which they called, by the way. They called no finally. The margin of no decreases a little bit. So now it's under 24. Mississippi, McDaniel, he's still in the lead, 4% of the vote in, but that's very early. We don't know. Very, very far from determining the outcome of that one. 1,200 viewers still. Like the stream, subscribe to the channel as well. Got a lot of content on the way. Wholesome DJ Aftershock says, oh my God, Trump and QAnon GQP is doomed. Dems are going to have a super majority in 2024 because of abortion. Yeah, it's not how it works. It's not how it works. There are people that think that, though. There are people that legitimately think that it's all over and that Biden just magically is going to become a popular, well-liked figure and he's going to rout Trump. It's like, has Trump really lost any support against Biden in the next election? Like from 2020 to now? The only reason why he's lost support is because of the AstroTurf campaign against him. And like a lot of his disapproval is like soft disapproval. It's going to come back anyways. He's going to have probably a 40-some% approval rating after the primaries. Biden's going to be stuck down there at 42 anyways. He's going to have to hope for economic data to come in top notch, the way it was the first few years of the Trump presidency for the rest of his presidency if he really wants to win, which for all we know, we'll have to see what happens. It comes down to a lot of different things. But his approval rating is low for a reason, and Trump is going to attack him for a lot of different things, and he's not going to hold back. He doesn't have to hold back. He knows. He's got to focus on the right things, though. I will say that. You got to focus on the right issues down the stretch. That goes for anybody. Doesn't matter who the nominee is. Obviously, it's going to be Trump, but I'm just saying in any of these other races. But yes is now under 22 points of deficit, or under 23. It will be under 22 shortly, probably. But this is a gap that's, I mean, the raw vote gap isn't really closing that much, which is not really that good. But the county map is filling in better than it was initially. It will get bluer and bluer. The orange will get lighter and lighter. But is it going to be enough? Probably not, given the fact it's been called. Manny says, will a recession outflank abortion in 2024? It should, especially with Trump, because Donald Trump makes it a non-issue. He doesn't talk about the issue a whole lot. He did a lot for the pro-life agenda, the pro-life movement. We overturned Roe v. Wade, but we overturned it with a president that it didn't really talk about banning it, kind of makes it a non-issue, kind of doesn't talk about the issue one way or another. And when he does, he goes on offense about it. That's what we need right now, messaging-wise, to maximize both policy as well as the electability. I don't like using that term because a lot of the people that use it are just awful. I like the term viability. Is he going to be viable? Because if you have somebody that's going to be running on things that I might agree with, like a national abortion ban at conception, they're not going to win. They're not going to win. But you could still manage to move the Overton window in that direction with people that can win. And I think that's what somebody like Trump does, where somebody like DeSantis defending his record on whatever he's done in Florida that's good, put him on the national stage, not going to exactly end well, because you know what the left's going to do. Making the election about, Blumf is an evil threat to democracy, or are you going to make it on DeSantis wants to cut Social Security and he's going to pass a national abortion ban, which I would like for him to pass. I would like to have a national abortion ban. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes down to getting voters out in an election in 2024 where you have a pretty morally corrupt society, in my view, it's not exactly going to pan out so well for him. So Tom Saff says, what is issue 1 in Ohio for? This issue, if it passes, would increase, which is not going to, at least it seems like it's not. They called it. If this passed, what it would do is it would raise the threshold required to pass a ballot measure from 50% to 60%. And the yes vote right now is not doing so well. It's doing better than it was an hour ago. But there's an abortion referendum that's coming up in November that will embed abortion in the Constitution if yes passes through. And it does seem as if that's now going to require just 50% instead of 60%. And if it was 60%, I would say it probably would have failed, given the one in Michigan failed or it passed, but it would have failed if you had a 60% threshold. It was like 56 to 44. It's pretty in line with the governor's race, ironically enough, which wasn't even as bad as I think what we saw in like Kansas or some of these other places, where they tend to be a lot less liberal regarding the issue. But it's a 21-point race right now. Yes is almost to 40%. That margin is decreasing as we know it in real time. The map is filling out for sure. So 1,237 live viewers. That's the same amount, I believe, as the delegates to clinch the Republican nomination. At least it was in 2016. Like the stream. How many likes are we at on YouTube? We're at over 800. Like the stream. Let's get to 1,000 likes. And make sure you guys subscribe. We haven't done an election stream in months, and hopefully we're going to be doing some more later this year, as well as next year is going to be a big election year. I'm looking forward to it. And we're going to have a new studio pretty soon. Similar setup overall, but hopefully we'll have a new studio location, which is pretty cool. It's going to be pretty cool. We're going to have more space. We're going to have more options. We're going to have more content with my face in it, which means it's probably going to do a little bit better because people tend to like the face cam a lot. So as I do, but let's see. No, 21 points. We'll go to Mississippi. Nothing's new out of Mississippi. So we're going back to Ohio and we're going back to Super Chats. We have, let's see, Colin McMeanamy says, if states settle an abortion for better or worse, will that at least make it less of an issue Dems can use to scare independent voters away from Trump in 2024? Well, technically it would make it better overall. But like I said, Trump makes it a non-issue. Everybody knows that Donald Trump is not going to be this guy that's going to go out there and institute a federal ban, for better or worse. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll do something on it. I don't know. But on the issue, Trump moves the Overton window. He's pro-life more than he's not, and that's a good thing. But when it comes down to the battle and the culture and the states and things like that, that's a battle we're losing right now. But I think if you put DeSantis at the top of the ticket, that's going to scare more independents away on that issue than if you put Trump on the ticket, which is ironically enough the case. And you're looking at that because you hear all these people in the DeSantis camp say, DeSantis, he's more electable. He'll get the independents. And look at the poll numbers with independents. They're worse than Trump in a lot of these polls, and he's underperforming Trump against Biden. And Trump's under federal investigation. He's about to be 4 times indicted. He possibly might be going to jail for stuff he didn't do, but it doesn't matter. And it's like, okay, Trump still has the upper hand there just because of these issues and just because of other stuff people care about. Everybody knows that the indictments are bogus, and Trump's probably not going to go to jail before 2024. And if he loses the election, they're probably just going to throw all the cases out. Oh, it's unity. Look, we're the good guys. They're not the good guys. They're evil. But it doesn't matter. That's what they'll try to do. And when you look and you read between the lines regarding the Trump stuff, if Trump does win, what can happen is, they'll escort him to prison. What is he going to do? He's still president. Boom, I'm pardoned. I'm free. He goes back to the White House. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. But either way, I don't think he's going to jail. They want to drain his legal funds. They want to drain his pocketbook. And even then, are they really going to be able to do that all successfully to the point where that's the one reason why he loses? I don't know. But yes, hit 40. It's under a 20% gap now. So we'll wait and see. Oh, I think another county or two just flipped to the yes side. Maybe not. Mississippi, nothing. Okay. And another super chat. Manny says, thoughts on the U.S. women's team getting eliminated? I think it's funny. Everything woke goes to shit. That's what Trump said. That's actually, and it's funny because DeSantis stole it with the Florida's where woke goes to die. Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's not about that. But, I mean, you do have the woke, with the one lesbian woman who always talks a lot of trash, doesn't stand up for the national anthem, hates this country, misses the shot. I think it's very fitting. I think it's very on brand. It's very fitting. And it's so funny. These people, they still want to be paid the same as men, but they don't generate the revenue. For whatever reason, they lose scrimmages to a bunch of like 13-year-old boys, like 5-1. And it's like they want the same amount of pay exactly. Because why? They're women. They earn a higher share, comparatively speaking, of the revenue they generate compared to the men's soccer or whatever. It's ridiculous. Keeping it sweet for $50. That's the biggest super chat tonight. If anybody wants to top that, be my guest. But I've been watching the Cho show recently, who shows the crime and drug problems in Washington, specifically Seattle. It's really sad. Hate to be negative, but do you think the Washington will get better, or do you think the state is doomed? It's probably doomed. I mean, maybe you can get a governor in there that'll kind of do these things to clean up the state, but I mean, either way, it's like Washington, Pacific Northwest, they're doomed. They're done. They shouldn't be. They have beautiful terrain. They're beautiful places on, in terms of visually, but they're controlled by these cities like Portland and Seattle that are just leftist cesspools, and as a result, the states are going to be blue for quite some time. But thank you for the 50. Thank you for the big super chat. Really appreciate it. Sam Harrison for 2 says, I hope November 5th is a good night for us all. Me too. Literally God. Says Trump campaigns with Cameron in Eastern Kentucky. GOP flip. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be enough to do it, but he needs to go down there. If they try to keep Trump away from Kentucky, they're just dumb. They deserve to lose it. But it's like they don't know anything. They don't know how these things work. You need the MAGA. If you can't turn out the MAGA base, you're not going to win Kentucky. In this off year against an incumbent governor, you should be able to beat this guy. You are in Kentucky. You have the math on your side. If you turn out enough voters, he will go down. But apparently they're just weak. And I'm not saying Cameron's not going to have a shot to win. He could, but right now it's not looking like the best, but there's still time to regroup. But yes is under 19. It's 18.8%. So it's gaining support. It really is, but the big counties, there's still more votes to come in. Probably going to lean no. We'll see. Not by the same margin, though. More votes tabulated. Okay. 45% of the vote is in. So the remainder of the votes are going to have to come in like 58% yes. Are they? I don't see it. Like I said, I think yes probably fails by around give or take 10. That's the way I see it. They called it. I called it. Wasserman then called it. New York Times called it. So we're still going to stream for a little bit longer. We have 1,200 viewers that we have to entertain. Like the stream. What are we at? We're at 900 something. 921. Like the stream. Let's get that stream above 1,000 likes before we leave. That's all I have to say. If we do that, that's a win. Unlike the referendum tonight. But we'll monitor the Mississippi lieutenant governor primary, because that's interesting. You have an incumbent. 5% of the votes are in, and the incumbent is losing. They're losing to Chris McDaniel. And even so, they're under 50. It's going to force a runoff. We saw that with the Cassidy stuff, though. The establishment money was there. It poured in to save the incumbent. Not good overall. Okay, now it's 18. It's down to 18. Franklin County's 46% in. So that's Columbus. Columbus is padding votes. Cuyahoga, 35. So there's probably some election day votes in out of the big areas, but not quite enough. But it's a 19-point game right now. 19 points. Someone in main chat asked if the East Palestine disaster hurts Dems in 2024. Absolutely. If there's going to be ads running about it, it should. Because the way Biden handled that was god-awful. And the way Trump handled it was literally perfect, to the point where East Ohio, yeah, it's going to move right. I think that's one of the reasons. I don't know if that's the only reason, because it's been moving right. But yeah, it should continue to move right. Ohio's a red state. Regardless of what happens tonight, you'll have a lot of conservatives that'll call themselves conservatives that are voting no for this, for whatever reason. I might disagree with those reasons, but those people do exist, and that's kind of what's leading this, I guess. Lady Freddie, thank you for the 3. I don't think we have any member chats. I don't want to miss anybody's anything. I don't think we have any, so You guys can become a member on the website. It's not going to get you the badge. That's the YouTube membership. You could become a member here. You're going to get the badge. But you get a lot more on the website. You get exclusive videos. An exclusive video every week on the website that you don't see on the main channel is full length. You also get access to the newsletter, the Discord, the everything on the website at redeaglepolitics.com. It's $5 a month. It's 16 cents a day. And we'll be reworking the website in the next month or so as well. So do stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's a little exhausting. It's a little exhausting that we haven't had a massive electoral victory. We're a little defeated. I don't know. Maybe this November it will change. We'll see what happens in Kentucky. But Mitch McConnell got booed. They'll trot out McConnell. They'll tell Trump to stay away. Then they trot out McConnell in front of like this Republican Party dinner event, and he gets booed by his constituents. But they want to gatekeep Trump from Kentucky. This isn't like even like a swing state that he's not super popular in. This isn't Georgia, which even then it's a bad idea. You know, have Trump go to the Trump areas, and then you can have your Brian Kemps go to the suburbs. Whatever. Fine. But you're talking about Kentucky. This is a state that voted for Trump by 30 points. It's not voting for other Republicans by 30 points. And then you're trying to gatekeep Trump from Kentucky. Why? Why are you doing that? If not for Trump, Matt Bevin would have lost by like 10 back in 2019. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Why are they doing this? So they could like blame Trump for a Cameron loss despite him like being told to stay. I don't know what's going on, but he needs to get involved. I think he will get involved down the stretch in some capacity, but he should be there doing like 3 or 4 rallies a month between now and Election Day. So Lady Freddie says, is there a candidate to replace Mitch? Are you talking about for the Kentucky Senate race, or are you talking about for Senate Majority Leader? Because Kentucky Senate race, I don't know, maybe Cameron will run for that or something if he loses, or they'll go for somebody else. I know people will say Thomas Massie could be a fan favorite. I don't know if he'd get the nomination. But in terms of the Senate Majority Leader or Minority Leader, yeah, they're probably going to have people like John Thune and Cornyn lined up behind him, and then maybe you'll have people like Rick Scott in the mix, and Barrasso and John Neely Kennedy, some of these people that are not as bad or as swamp-esque. So maybe you'll get an upgrade there, but it's going to be like, oh, we got an upgraded Speaker of the House because we don't have Paul Ryan anymore. We have Kevin McCarthy. It's like Kevin McCarthy, he hasn't been atrocious, but he also hasn't been really all that great either. So Tucson PaleoCon for $20 says, have a good day. Thank you to Tucson for the super chat. Appreciate it. Up next, we have a super chat from Samuel Harrison. Again, says, can Trump move the Jan 6 case to the Supreme Court outside of D.C.? I don't think they'd let it happen because the judge in that case is awful. And on top of that, it's kind of like the whole thing took place in D.C., so they're probably not going to really have the grounds to move it, whereas the whole case for the documents, you have a pro-Trump friendly judge in Florida because that kind of relates to what goes on in Florida. So it's a disaster. We're gonna see more indictments. What are they gonna indict Trump for next beyond the Georgia? They're gonna probably try to bring back the whole Ukraine phone call. That's what he'll be indicted for next. And what are they gonna indict him for? I'd like to see what people in chat. I'll even look at regular chat. What are they going to indict Trump for next? What are they going to go after Trump for beyond this Georgia phone call? What are they going to try to get him for? Because it's not going to stop at 4. You're going to have some person that's going to come up with something. It's funny, the first thing they indicted him for was something that was such bogusness that even the left, parts of the left at the time, had to laugh it off. They're saying Ukraine breathing. Well, they're already doing it for breathing. That's all they're doing at beating Hillary. Well, that's kind of what it all comes down to. Russian collusion. They can't even. If they bring that back, it's I don't even know. It's all bogus. It's all bogus. His hair, tax fraud. They're already trying to get him on tax stuff. But they release his taxes and he just uses the loopholes. Everyone uses loopholes that has half a brain. I mean, you could say the tax code has too many loopholes, fine. But like even Trump worked to get rid of those loopholes. I mean, the Trump tax bill, the SALT deductions, in fact, raised taxes on a lot of these blue state, I wouldn't just say the upper middle class, but he raised a lot of taxes on these blue state billionaires. That's one of the reasons why they don't like him. Everyone likes to talk about the tax cuts for the rich. It's like, well, did it really cut taxes for the rich? Because you look at New York or California, the rich there ended up having to pay more. It increased the overall revenue from taxes after the tax cut legislation went into effect. So, and then Biden tried to undo it with reinstituting the SALT deductions. Biden's the one cutting taxes for the rich, ironically enough, but that's how it works. So, all right. Exhausting. It's exhausting, guys. Yes is now underwater by 18.6%. It's probably going to stay there. Mississippi, they called it for Reeves. Hostman has taken the lead in Mississippi, still under 50%, but the way it stands now is what it is. But okay, that's it. That's really all we have right now. We can keep looking at the map here. You guys want to send in more super chats, you can feel free to. We'll get to all your questions, and I'm sure some people have more. We have 1,000 live viewers in the live chat. We've been going for almost 2 hours. It's a pretty big stream that we've done for an election that a lot of people don't even know what the hell they're voting on. So, Security TV says, breaking news, Trump arrested for jaywalking. Says CNN, everybody is racist. Jaywalk. I mean, they would be the type of people to get him on jaywalking, the current Justice Department. They get him on anything. It doesn't matter what he does or what he says. They will always use his words against him. They've been doing that for quite some time. And now they have a legal precedent to do it at in the Justice Department. So now they're trying to go after him there. So they're trying to prevent him from running successfully. This is no different than what they accuse Putin of doing, or they accuse Xi of doing, or whatever. And I'm not saying that those accusations are false at all, but what I'm saying is they are the authoritarians here at home. And so many people on the right are cheering this on, maybe not like the authentic right, but a lot of these like DeSantis people, they're cheering it on because that's like the only path DeSantis has, or any of these other people have, to the nomination, is for Trump to go away. They want to lock him up. They want to throw away the key. We can't let that happen. We can't let it happen. We got to stand with Trump. We have to. And I think a lot of people do, and a lot of people will. I mean, it is true right now he's getting bad press, and people are saying they may not vote for him in the polls as much, or he's down a couple of points in the polls. But it's like, okay, when he gets out there and defends himself, which he will, those numbers will go back up. And now, yes is almost a 42%. More votes poured in. More counties are on the verge of flipping or have flipped. We're still waiting on some to flip, obviously, but it does seem Claremont County, suburb of Cincinnati, flipped. We're waiting on Butler to flip, Warren to flip. So the margin's going to narrow, but probably not by enough to make a difference. 52% of the votes are in. And then McDaniel, depends on how the votes shake out, but he probably is going to fall short, but it's not over yet. So, all right. Wood County should flip. I think it voted for Brown in 2018. But it's probably not going to vote for him in 2024. Oh, yes, went up by 0.8%. Okay. Fairfield County's probably going to flip. Fairfield voted for Trump by a lot. voted for him by like 24. That's going to flip. Delaware or Union County, that's going to flip. Delaware County probably doesn't flip if I have to say it, but there's still a lot of votes left, so you never know. It could flip. Yeah, now Warren flipped. Warren's voting yes. Butler, they haven't tabulated a lot of ballots there yet. Ashtabula flipped back to no, which is pretty weird. But Mahoning got more yes. So yes is now down by 15. 56% of the vote is remaining. Like I said, yes is going to need about 58%, 59%. I don't think they have the math working in their favor, but is what it is. So Ottawa County, I think that one should flip. Wood probably is not going to. Huron, so Erie didn't flip. Huron will. Let's see, Mississippi. And Mississippi is like counting at a turtle's pace. Mitch McConnell's back there counting the ballots. But 56% in Ohio, at least we've kind of got some ballots counted. At least some counties are moving. But like I said, I think no by 10, maybe no by 12 is probably the fair final estimate of the night. So that's kind of what it is. So we'll be ending the stream shortly. This will be the last call for super chats. If you have any super chats, send them within the next minute or two, because this is your last chance to send a super chat until Sunday, if we do stream on Sunday, which I will try to. But Thursday there is no stream, just a heads up for everybody. But we did a stream tonight, and we're still technically doing one. So you have the opportunity to send super chats, but only for the next few minutes or so till we finally end. But it's down to 15. We'll see if it gets any closer in the meantime, but it's not going to flip in its entirety, at least. So all right, go back to Mississippi. Yeah, 9%. Nothing's really moving. Down ballot races, there's no competitive like races where incumbents could lose. Public Service Commissioner for the South, the incumbent is losing, but it's very early. Interesting. I don't know why they divvy up the statewide offices between the regions, but it is what it is. Now, no is up by just 14.8. Okay. We have a super chat. Olivia Lavoie says, who do you think Mitch McConnell's replacement will be in 2026 when he retires? I just answered this question from another super chat, but I will reiterate. It depends what you mean by his replacement. Replacement in the Kentucky Senate seat, that could be Daniel Cameron, it could be Thomas Massie, it could be a lot of people. Or his replacement as Senate Majority Leader or Senate Minority Leader, which could be, like I said, the establishment is their people, like John Thune, John Cornyn, the backup bench. Or maybe you get somebody a little bit less establishmentarian, but still a tenured, standard Republican in there, like John N. Kennedy. Maybe Rick Scott will throw his hat in the ring. Somebody like Barrasso, who was mentioned in my last video, and that was mentioned in that Newsweek article. So I don't know. You're probably not going to see like Vance or Hawley or one of those guys, or to the Rand Paul fans out there, Rand Paul becomes Senate Majority Leader, but you possibly could still get an upgrade and kind of have a little bit more room to work with and have somebody that's a little bit more malleable and less establishment in there. So I don't know. Garrett Vranikar says, what's Trump's chances in Pennsylvania if the United Auto Workers Union endorses him? Well, I think that would help. I think he could win Pennsylvania without him. He won it without him before, but we'll have to see. He's got to focus on northeastern Pennsylvania. I think that's where the election's going to be won. You have to get your ballots out. You got to, utilize the election system to your advantage. You can match your turnout from your past election cycles doing that easily. Then you got to go on offense. Go to Joe's home turf. Hold a rally in Scranton. Joe's homeland. They called him Scranton Joe. They said they call him everything. Everything Joe. Every little nickname is something Joe that he touts. And he's like, they call me Scranton Joe. It's like, yeah, well, it'd be funny if Scranton turned on him a little bit. I'm not saying the county is gonna flip red, but if Trump makes up enough ground in northeastern Pennsylvania, he can win the state and offset a lot of potential further losses in Chester County, Delaware County, which Republicans are kind of already nearing a bottom at, so long as they're not like running Mastriano for president and getting the funding that he got out there. But that is what it is. All right, guys. I think we're going to end the stream. It kind of went as expected. I said that yes would fail by around 10. It seems like that's kind of the trajectory that is going to happen. I'll do a video on this tomorrow, and there's no stream on Thursday, but I will do a stream on Sunday. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this live stream. Like this stream down below. Did we hit 1,000? We did hit 1,000. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for all of the super chats, by the way. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.